And we are live. Hi, welcome to Inner Self Podcasts. I am Marshall Little, for those who do not know. This is the very first episode, and appreciate everybody tuning in to listen to this. So this podcast, it's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I'm huge in self-help, self-development, mental health, physical health. I'm a firm believer in holistic fitness and the importance of it because I truly believe, and it's also backed by numerous studies, that they're all tied in together. A lot of times you get people, they'll focus on one or two portions of all the different pillars of fitness, and they never pay attention to some of the others. And then it really are with our ultimate goal in life, trying to be the best versions of us possible, and hopefully that is your goal. It kind of makes it a little harder to be able to do that whenever you're just focusing on one or two of those. So this is something that, also I take a lot from talking about this stuff. And it's really helped me be able to kind of put out everything that I have dealt with in the past, internally, and being able to grow and learn from my mistakes, throughout my life, regardless of, whatever it was part of, whether it was like career or personal life, relationships, friendships, different goals that, I was trying to set out, whatever the case is. It's another means. Doing this podcast is another means of me being able to identify those things and really kind of express them and which helps me better understand and get to the deeper root of each cause, which end result helps me grow as an individual, and ultimately hoping whoever is listening to this also takes something away from it. So with the first episode, really wanted to focus on purpose, because a lot of times, people throw the term purpose out a lot. Whether it's, you gotta, what's life without purpose, or, without purpose, life is meaningless, all of those things. So we hear the term a lot, but how well do we understand what purpose is and also the importance of it? So that's something I really wanted to focus on. So what is purpose? So purpose, according to the dictionary, is the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. So when I hear that, I think, okay, purpose gives us a reason. Purpose gives us the why, because without having reason or why with things in life, with whatever goals we're wanting to achieve or anything like that, it kind of makes it. I don't know if I want to use the term less motivating, but it also makes it where it's really hard for us to be able to fully go after whatever our goals or ambitions in life, or not even goals and ambitions, but just being ultimately happy, because, everybody comes from all walks of life, all cultures, all different types of upbringings, financial status, social status, whatever the case is. And I've met people that had basically nothing that were so much happier than the people that had a lot of money. like had enough money to, fund a couple of, 4 other families, for their lives. And, it really made me think, that what is it that gives these people, like this, the joy, in everyday life and the reason to live, even though they're barely able to make ends meet. And everything has, what I found out is everyone has a different reason. Some, it may be family. They're like, hey, I've got my family here. We're all happy. We love each other. And that's all we really need. We have a roof over our heads. We have clothes on our backs. And we go to bed with a full stomach every night. There's a lot of people in this world that don't even have that. I was watching, it was a documentary on Netflix, fight sports or fight, it's something to do with, fighting. And basically this guy goes around and he goes to these different countries and really trains alongside and also kind of digs in, to the culture, talking with the locals and everything on whatever major sport it was. So on one of them, he went to Thailand, and the big martial art in Thailand is obviously Muay Thai, and it's, the art of 8 limbs, because you get hit with fists, elbows, knees, and kicks. And a lot of those people, there was a lot of, young kids there that had nothing, a lot of older men there that, they had absolutely nothing. They were living out of a shack, and then, but like their purpose in life, their joy was, that martial art. I know for me personally, jiu-jitsu is a huge one for me. It's such a huge part of my life. It's one of the things that gives me purpose. Obviously, the biggest thing that gives me purpose in life is my children. My kids are my world. I knew from an early age, like I always wanted to be a father, and I wanted a huge family, and the whole, little house with the white picket fence around it, and, living happily ever after and all that stuff. And, but just being a father and trying to be the best father possible for my kids and, watching them grow up to be healthy and great members of society, that's definitely the number one purpose for me. Another purpose, for me, I find through jiu-jitsu. It's definitely helped me pull myself out of very dark moments in my life, through many a times, more than once. It's one of those things that's always been there, because I also think another thing that, I know that I find from it, and I think that a lot of many other people do, whether it's jiu-jitsu, gyms, whether it's, normal bodybuilding, CrossFit, or any other martial art or sport, is, that sense of family. And because you're around, other like-minded individuals that are interested in the same thing, and I can say for me personally, I have my jiu-jitsu family, and those, everyone there's, like family for me. I would do anything and drop a hat for them, and I know they do the same for me, so, that also gives me, purpose in life. But I think ultimately, then there's many studies to back it up, which I will go in later, is that, having a sense of purpose in life is so critical, for our mental health, for our, well-being. And a lot of people don't realize, the effects that you're, not having that, being in a good state of mind, taking care of your mental and emotional health, the impacts that it can have on others, whether knowingly or unknowingly. It's been proven numerous times, and I know from experience that it can have a negative effect. And, for me, my experience was it took me a long time to go talk to somebody about depression, so because I didn't realize the effects that it was having on the people around me, the people that I cared about. And once I kind of had that wake up call and really realized it, because, ultimately the last thing we want to do is, hurt the ones we love, unknowingly. And once I realized that, that was really a wake up call for me to go and get taken care of, go and talk to somebody. I mean, I'll say I take Zoloft every day, 75 milligrams Zoloft a day for depression, and I still talk to a therapist. Even though they told me, they're like, you want to still keep coming? And I was like, yeah, because all there is, there's, you can never grow too much. There's always room to improve, to be a better person. And I think when, we approach life like that, it makes life so much more meaningful, and it truly gives us purpose. So there was a study that I was actually looking into before this podcast. And so it was the benefits of having a sense of purpose. And this was done by a man by the name of Anthony L. Burrow. He's in charge of human development at College of Human Ecology. This was a research paper done on Cornell University. And so reading into this, he really breaks down, one of the quotes him saying was, having a sense of purpose brings lifelong benefits. He further explains, and points to research by others that has shown that purposeful people actually tend to live longer and are less sick. The findings are mind-blowing, he says. The questions I am asked is why? What is purpose actually doing for people? So I know one thing for me is that I've noticed, like, as I, taking care of myself, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally, one of the big things, and really finding my, purpose in life and refining it, it's really helped me in terms of, like, I just feel better every day. So, like, I can honestly see this. So he really breaks this down. One of them is, staying even keel in negative situations. So to kind of go further into it, one of his earliest research studies looked at a role as a sense of purpose plays in how we relate to the world around us. And so basically, like, he and his collaborators got together and asked college students in Chicago to ride the north-south train corridor from one end to the other. So the researchers, they already knew from other studies that people feel increasingly uncomfortable the more people around them diverge from their own racial and ethnic background. So now they wanted to see whether a sense of purpose had any impact on that phenomenon. So, he always, one thing is, we're confronted with the ups and downs of life, but purpose is, honestly an active ingredient that helps us stay stable. I strongly believe that. So in that study, the findings, the students who had written about the controlled question recording, they recorded feeling increasingly uneasy as the ethnic makeup of their fellow passengers diverged from their own ethnicity. However, those who had written about their sense of purpose had a different outcome. They were emotionally even Neil Burrows said. Their mood was not contingent on the population or the passengers around them. This is one of the things we believe a sense of purpose affords us. It gives us a sense of psychological homeostasis. We are confronted with the ups and downs of life, but purpose is an active ingredient that helps us stay stable. Wow. So that's obviously one of the big factors, one of the big major benefits of having purpose. And I feel too, once you find purpose, everything else kind of ties together. One thing I'm huge on is being a logical thinker, like in everything I do. Because I know in the past, like when I was younger, I would have like my biases. I would make decisions, when, they would have been emotionally based, things of that nature. One of the best quotes I ever heard was actually from a friend of mine. Shout out to you, Sean. A logical mind is a dangerous mind. And hearing that, really made me like think about that, like mentally deep dive into it. I'm like, and this is around the time where, I taken courses on, critical thinking, for my business degree, and then also through the military, and the importance of being a critical thinker. And one of the things they talk about is, being logical, and they go into logical fallacies and everything of that nature. And when you can think logically about everything, even when like it's something that could be an emotional trigger for you, being able to step back, even once you start feeling those emotions come about, so you can look at it completely clear-headed, logically, just looking at the facts and the data, taking your emotional bias, your political bias, religious bias, out of the equation and looking at it based just off the facts. That has helped me so much. And it's helped me become more level-headed. And I've noticed too, as I've, really deep dive and focused a lot on, what gives me purpose, that is just kind of catapulted my ability to be able to do that. So going back to Mr. Burrows' findings in that study, I can honestly see how that can play a factor in it, So another thing that he, talked about is the benefits of purpose. It's everyone can access the benefit. So it's not purpose isn't one of those things that it's like, oh man, I need purpose. I got to go to the store, pick that up. I can't afford it. Whatever the case is, it's like, hey, the beauty of it, it's free. So it just takes a little work, and then, reflection and being able to, kind of take ourselves back from the day-to-day grind and the distractions from technology and social media to really find out, what is my purpose? What gives me purpose in life? What makes me feel, fulfilled and wanting, to, wake up every morning and hop out of bed, because it gives me a reason. And sorry, my dog. Everybody say hi to Millie. All right, go lay down. So, it's all of that stuff, it really, once you find that and put in that work, that's the beauty of it, is that it's free. It's not one of those things that you have to pay for. You know, it's like, oh, you got to buy the subscription. Like, we pay enough subscriptions, you know, nowadays. So being able to do that, you know, is great. So looking at, you know, into this story that Mr. Burrow wrote, you know, because that was one of the other key points that he hit, was everybody has access, or everyone can access the benefits of purpose. So he goes into, in the train study, some of the participants may not have initially been cognizant of their own sense of purpose, but when asked to reflect on it, they reap the benefits as much as those who are already aware. So, and I quote from what he said is, it's not a story of the haves and have-nots, Burrow says. The rest of us too can access the benefits of purpose, even with a fleeting opportunity to reflect on it. Purpose mitigates reactivity. So this finding was born out of another study in which Burrow had participants first take a survey to ascertain their level of purpose in life, and then keep a diary for 14 to 21 days. Those who scored higher on a sense of purpose recorded it just as many everyday hassles as other people, but they weren't as emotionally affected by them. You know, so which he also says, as I quote, you know, it's not the absence of stress, it's how we react to it, Burrow says. That's potentially the explanatory mechanism that affects health. Purposeful people can mitigate stress that would otherwise derail them. So, obviously, that shows another benefit of it. And that when you have purpose and when you can go back to being able to, you know, I really feel like it helps you think logically, be, you know, logical in everyday life. When you can pull yourself back and reflect, you know, it makes you more emotionally self-aware. You know, for instance, for myself, there's things now, that situations that, like, you know, even 2 years ago that I would have probably lost my mind on. Like, I would have blown up and let my emotions get the best of me. When now I can address that issue and I can talk about it in a calm, cool demeanor and try to, you know, make it constructive and ensuring that, you know, like, okay, here's the issue, let's get to the root of the cause. Because before I would get, you know, emotionally charged and I would attack the person and not the problem. Now, everything, like, I'm always, you know, thinking to myself, like, okay, always attack the problem, not the person. Always attack the issue. Like, okay, here's the issue, you know, how are we going to fix this? How are we going to get through this? Or here's the issue, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to get through this? Like, if it's something that just involves me. You know, and that whole thought process, that can be used in, you know, work, relationships, friendships, just everyday life. And being able to do that has really helped me, and I know it could really help anybody listening to this. I strongly advise give that a try. Another thing I want to point out, what Mr. Burrow talked about was, you know, talking about taking a diary. So there's a lot of evidence through research that shows the benefits of having a diary, writing stuff down. Because when we put things on paper, you know, it's different, and it has a different effect as opposed to, like, if I'm just driving, you know, and I'm thinking in my head, like, you know, oh, you know, this went on today, you know, I gotta remember to do this, or, you know, I shouldn't have said that to that person, I really need to work on this. But whether it's early in the morning or at the end of the day, like, you can really benefit a lot from, you know, being able to sit down and start writing your thoughts out on a piece of paper. And what a lot of research has shown is that when you do that, it really makes you dial in, and it helps you to be able to really zone in to focus on what you're thinking, especially if you're like me and your mind tends to go all over the place, like get easily distracted. Writing stuff down and journaling is something that is super beneficial. So another thing that he also talks about is resisting the influence of positive feedback. So to sum up the study, what he did was by basically he brought student volunteers into the laboratory to test a new social network site. So in reality, there was no site. This is what he told them, and the computers were not hooked up to the internet. So the participants were given a survey to measure their sense of purpose and then asked to start building a profile by first posting a selfie. After 15 minutes, the researchers told them that their selfies had gotten below average, or above average number of likes. So quoting him, he stated that we actually manufactured greater self-esteem in the people who were told that selfies got more than the average number of likes, Burrows says. However, those who had scored higher on the measure of purpose beforehand did not experience greater self-esteem. In fact, they didn't react to being told they had more likes. So he later stated that this indicates that whatever purpose is doing, it isn't just disruption or disrupting negative experiences. It's also having a measurable effect on positive experience. So Burrow continues in his paper stating that it helps people stave off reactivity to something like getting a lot of likes on social media, which is a good thing because you don't want your self-esteem to be dependent on other people's opinions. Wow. So that's obviously, especially nowadays with, I can't even begin to count like how many social media platforms there are now. But you know, we as a society, we become so social media dependent, and like I'm even bad about it myself sometimes, and like I gotta kind of tell myself, like as I'm aimlessly swiping, scrolling through people's stories or like whatever memes or whatever, you know, on Instagram or something, and kind of tell myself like, okay, like how is this getting me to where I want to be? Or how is this positively affecting my ability to accomplish a certain task that I've set out to do? And then I'll be like, all right, you know, I have to kind of take a deep breath, and then I set my phone down, and I get back to work, get back to the grind, whatever the case may be. Another thing too is, you know, with social media and everything, it's really, I feel like it's really made people more dependent on outside validation, you know, being validated by others. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's like, you know, who cares what others think, you know? And I think that having purpose in life, it also helps you be able to have that higher self-esteem in yourself, because, you know, you're ultimately more happy, you're more content with where you are in life. You know, you already have the direction that you're wanting to go, and you have a reason to get up every morning and jump out of bed, because it's like I get to do the things I love. This is my purpose. So I don't need that self-esteem boost from other people. I had another friend of mine, told me a good way, because I used to be really bad at, letting other people, like, what their opinions of me get to me. Like it would just eat me up. Like I was so worried about, other people's thoughts of me, other people's opinions, and I would let it affect me negatively, and it would just like give me that like sick feeling in my stomach. To where like I finally kind of like sat back and thought, I'm like, why am I letting these people, or what I even might think, what they think about me, why am I letting that control how I'm feeling? When at the end of the day, they don't pay my bills, they don't feed me, and they don't, yeah, like, I don't get it. It's crazy to think that we allow people to have such an effect on how we feel, and we seek validation from other people. We should always want people in our lives that they add to, not take away. And I think that falls back to, insecurities, and I've been guilty myself of it in the past. There was a time in my life, I started feeling super insecure about myself. So I was putting how I feel on other people, and, not fully realizing how damaging that could be, and the negative impact that I had until later down the road. And so that took a lot of soul searching, a lot of accountability in myself, and a bad habit that I had picked up, and I had for there for a period of time. But I think too, and like it all ties back into the holistic fitness, being able to identify those things, and once you have that confidence in yourself and have that purpose, you're constantly wanting to find ways to further improve yourself, to further improve, your what gives you meaning in life, the why. Why do I exist on this planet? Why am I breathing? What is my purpose? And once you find that, I honestly feel like everything else just kind of ties in together with that holistic fitness mindset. I know for me, finding my purpose has really helped me be able to hold myself accountable more and more every day, and being able to look in the mirror and write stuff down in journals, like, okay, it's what I'm getting a lot better at, but I still have a bad habit of doing X, Y, and Z, so I'm really going to focus on that, because ultimately, if I don't focus on those things, then my ultimate purpose, being the best father I can be, for my kids, the best man I can be, and it hinders that, because then I still have those issues that I'm not holding myself accountable for, and I'm not addressing. Because the more that you just ignore stuff and bury stuff, you don't realize the effects it has on other people until it's too late. So finding all that stuff and really being able to, identify those things, address them, and, ultimately having them fixed so you can move forward, just makes life so much better, so much more meaningful, so much more beneficial. And like anyone that's known me for a long time, like they knew the rough patches that I hit in life. Whether those, there's been a couple in life, and they were all, I'd say, two, maybe, yeah, probably the two big ones, big rough patches I hit, and it was all after, maybe three, all after major, significant life-changing, life-altering events. And it's been a long, years of work, but the mind is such a complex machine, like, and anyone who says that, this person, like, like they can't, like, you can't change who you are, you can't, change your mindset on things, like, that's simply not true. And there's numerous studies and peer-reviewed evidence that I can back up to support that is not true. Your mind, it's like a muscle, like you exercise it. When you exercise it, it becomes habit. I've had, and another example, so I was a drill sergeant, and you bring soldiers, we would get soldiers in day one, they had all of these, habits that they had picked up over the last 18 years of life, all walks of life, some of, a lot of them coming from broken homes and stuff like that, tough upbringings. And, after having them for 18, 19 weeks, it's total 180, they're literally reborn into a new person. But I will say that it's a continuous thing. It's not one of those things, it's like, okay, I did this for 8 or 9 weeks, like, I'm good now. And then, like, you slowly get lazy with it and you go off. Like, it's self-development. It's a constant thing. You've got to be a lifelong learner and wanting to constantly improve and constantly better yourself. And once you find that purpose, whatever it may be, like, you will truly see all of that stuff propel. So I would like to thank everyone that has tuned in and listened to this or watched this podcast. Like I said, this is going to be the first of many. I'm going to start getting people on, and then that way start interviewing people, having them on my podcast. That way they can tell their stories, and we'll cover numerous different topics, whether it's physical health, mental health, spiritual health, whatever the case may be, but with the ultimate goal of, putting all that information out for people. And, I think our society's gotten better in identifying, like, mental health issues. And, but, there's, like I said, it's the same how it is for us individually. It's, there's always room for improvement. And I think putting that information out for people to hear, and seeing what worked for me, what has worked for other people, they can identify it and be like, wow, this person did it. They went through some tough stuff in their lives, and, that means I can too. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast, is to hopefully, even if this episode, helps at least one person, then, that's enough for me. That it's what it's all about, so, and doing this, honestly, it helps me, so as well. So, talking about it and causing me to, like, look into it and research about it. So it's a win-win. So But one thing that I do want to do, and I'll start doing in the future episodes, is at the end of each episode, go over, really put out the suicide hotline, because that is obviously another big crisis that we're dealing with in this day and age. So addressing that and making it, putting in those efforts to try and fix that. If we can save one life, that makes it meaningful. So if you are listening to this podcast and you're thinking about, hurting yourself, ending your life, just know that you honestly do matter. You matter to, if not anyone, you matter to me. You matter to so many people, so many listeners on this podcast. If you're thinking about hurting yourself, please reach out. On the suicide hotline, you can actually call or text the chat. It's the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, at 988 at any time of the day. The Lifeline provides free and confidential support for people in distress, prevention, and crisis resources for you or your loved ones. So once again, 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So they will respond any time of the day. So please, you matter. Please, please, please reach out. So with that being said, everyone, once again, thank you so much for listening to this, taking the time to watch this. And we will be back next week for another episode of Self Health Podcast.